less limited release, The Devil and Daniel Johnston. Now, I should confess right at the beginning, you probably had heard of it.
You haven't seen it?
No, I've seen the film. Of course I've seen the film. What do you think this is, a tabloid newspaper? Had you heard of... Have I ever reviewed a film that I haven't seen?
No, you haven't.
Thank you. Moving on, Your Honour. The Devil and Daniel Johnston. I get abusive mail sometimes when they do the top 10. I say I haven't seen that because I was off last week, but I'm sorry, but now I have gone back and seen it and stopped the rant. Fine. Had you heard of Daniel Johnston? Had you heard his... You hadn't? It's not just me then. He is a cult musician.
Oh, that Daniel Johnston.
Yeah, no?
No.
Fine. In that case, I feel less stupid. Daniel Johnston, for those who don't know, this is a Sundance Award-winning documentary about Daniel Johnston, who's an oddball misfit who has ongoing mental problems and has been in and out of asylums and has recorded a string of home-recorded albums of the most peculiar music. Has developed... imagine Jonathan Richman times about 98. You know, remember Jonathan Richman?
Indeed, I do, yes.
Fine, okay, well, I'm a big fan of Jonathan Richman, but he is about as far as I go on the is he having us on scale. So... This guy achieved local notoriety first, and then after Kurt Cobain wore a T-shirt, a Hi, How Are You T-shirt, which is the name of one of his unfinished albums, became a huge international celebrity. And here is, because you have to hear this to understand, I'm really glad that you hadn't heard of him either, because I did think it was just me. Now, believe me, that is the high end of what he does. I mean,
what do you mean by high end?
I mean, basically, it's less professional than that for most of the stuff. He obsessively recorded everything, including conversations, arguments with his manager. He even recorded himself getting arrested in the Empire State Building for doing graffiti on the walls, because one of the things that he is a comic artist. He draws comics, passionately. And the documentary that this reminded me of, I mean, people have compared it to, for example, there was a documentary, there have been many documentaries about Brian Wilson. There was one recently about Arthur Killer Kane, the mad genius. This actually reminded me of Crumb. Remember the Crumb documentary, which was a beautifully produced piece of work. Terry Zwiegoff directed it. And, of course, it did deal with the genuine sadness and the genuine catastrophe of mental illness alongside the sort of the brilliantness of invention. And now there's that old Spinal Tap thing, which I always quote about. There's a very thin line between clever and stupid. And in terms of music, there's a very thin line between mad and genius. And I really can't tell you whether I would ever sit down and listen to a Daniel Johnston LP. I mean, it is almost unlistenable in some ways, but it is completely raw and completely strange. The best thing is that the documentary worked for me. I'd never heard of the guy. I don't think I'll ever go out and buy any of his records, but I found the documentary absolutely fascinating. It was helped by his extraordinary archive of tapes. There are modern-day interviews with his closest friends and colleagues and his parents, who appear to be latter-day saints, quite frankly. And it's loads of sort of, Super 8 footage from when he was a child. I mean, all that stuff that to some extent you've seen before, but put together with a real passion and a real care and a real commitment to getting across what Daniel Johnston is about. Like I said, at the end of it, you may not ever want to listen to a Daniel Johnston record, although many people, including Tom Waits, I didn't realise this, have covered his material. And he is a huge cult figure, although I am thrilled to see that you were as much in the dark about as I was. But believe me, Devil and Daniel Johnston, there's one lovely moment in which he says, you know what I really want? I want the Beatles to reform and be my backing band. And you think, on the one hand, that is the maddest thing anyone could say, but hey, if you're